My name is Ryan Mitchell. I'm 32 years old, live in Seattle, and I work as a creative director at a mid-sized ad agency downtown. People say I have a sharp eye, an intuitive gut, and a problem with commitment. I don't disagree. This is the story I've never told anyone. I call it, I was looking at old photos. Then she said, "Want to make new memories?" It began on a rainy Thursday evening. One of those evenings that smelled like damp concrete and unresolved thoughts. I was at home alone, surrounded by the muffled patter of rain against the windows. My apartment was quiet except for the low hum of an old jazz vinyl turning slowly. Chet Baker, his trumpet as lonely as I was. I hadn't meant to go through the old photo box. It just fell off the shelf while I was searching for a phone charger. A small avalanche of memories. Years of still moments frozen in glossy 4x6s and Polaroids. I sat cross-legged on the floor, thumbing through the stack. My college dorm room, Dad fishing at Lake Chelan, blurry nights with friends whose last names I'd forgotten. And then I found her, Sasha. She was laughing in the photo, her auburn hair tossed by wind, hand midair as if brushing away something invisible. It was taken in Vancouver on our weekend trip just before everything fell apart. Before my promotion, before the betrayal, before her silence. I stared at it too long, caught between nostalgia and guilt. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. I answered on instinct. "Hello. Hey, it's me." Took a second. But the voice, that voice, soft, unsure, unmistakable. "Sasha?" My breath caught. "I didn't think you'd pick up," she said, almost laughing, almost crying. I stood, heart pounding. "How? Why?" She exhaled slowly. "I was cleaning out my studio and found something. A photo of you looking at me like I was the only thing in the world. Made me wonder if you ever look at old photos too." I didn't know what to say, so I said what I meant. "I was looking at one 5 minutes ago." A pause. Then, gently, she asked, "Want to make new memories?" 1,000 thoughts raced through me. Anger, longing, confusion, but above it all, a flicker of hope. "Where are you?" She hesitated. "I'm in Seattle, just for a week. I have a show downtown at Gray Ridge Gallery." I didn't know if I'd call, but I did. Gray Ridge was 6 blocks from me. "I'll be there in 20, I said. The gallery was half empty when I arrived. Soft lights glowed over abstract canvases and moody installations. In the corner, under a halo of amber track light, stood Sasha. Older, quieter, but still her. She wore a black turtleneck, her hair tied up, a glass of wine in one hand and a guarded look in her eyes. When she saw me, she didn't smile. She just tilted her head slightly and said, "Still wearing leather jackets, huh?" I stepped closer. "Still painting storms." We stood there, surrounded by her work. Canvas after canvas of turmoil. Sea swells, thunderclouds, lone figures facing unseen forces. "Your art's changed," I said. "So have I," she replied. We walked slowly through the gallery. Talked, really talked. For the first time in years, the air between us didn't feel like glass about to shatter. We laughed. We remembered. She told me about her new studio in Portland, her therapy, her mother's passing. I told her about my work, my failed engagement, and how I still couldn't pass her old street without looking up at the 3rd-floor window. After the show, we walked outside. The rain had stopped. She turned to me and asked, "Do you want to come back? Just for tea? Or closure?" Closure. That word. That weapon. Still, I nodded. Her Airbnb was a loft, warm and cluttered with paintbrushes and vinyls. She made chamomile tea while I stood in the doorway, hands trembling in my coat pockets. "Why now?" I asked. She didn't look up. "Because I saw your face in that photo and realized I never stopped loving the man behind it," she said softly. I stared at her. "But you left. You made it easy," she said, finally meeting my eyes. "I begged you to slow down, to see me, but your career came first." I swallowed hard. She was right. I'd buried us under deadlines and ambition. "But I never stopped thinking about you," I said. She smiled sadly. "Then don't think. Stay." I stayed. That night was not perfect. It was emotional, jagged, full of words we should have said long ago. We argued, we kissed, we cried. It felt like standing in a storm and letting it wash over us, not knowing if we'd drown or come out clean. But in the morning, she was gone. The loft was empty, the tea mugs untouched, her suitcase gone, a note left on the kitchen table. Just 4 words. Don't forget this time. That was 2 months ago. And today, this morning, I got another envelope in the mail. No return address, just a photo inside. It was us, last night, laughing, and scribbled on the back, memory number 1. I must have stared at that photo for 20 minutes. Us, mid-laugh, somewhere between tea and tears. The camera must have been on a timer, or maybe she had set it up without telling me. It didn't matter. What mattered was the look on our faces, like we were rewriting the past in real time. Memory number 1. The back of the photo read, like it was part of a series. I checked the envelope again. Nothing else. No address. No phone number. Just the echo of her absence. And yet, something had shifted. She had left before, but this time she left a breadcrumb. I wasn't about to let her vanish again. Over the next week, I started digging. I visited the Gray Ridge Gallery again, hoping the curator might know where she went. A younger guy at the front desk shrugged. She left town the morning after the show. Didn't say where. That's kind of her thing. Drops in, drops out. Like a storm. Fitting. But something he said lingered. That's kind of her thing. Had she done this before? Come back. Briefly. Made contact. Then disappeared? At home, I searched online. Sasha Duvall Art Portland. Sasha Duvall Studio. Sasha Duvall Exhibition. Her online presence was minimal. A few scattered reviews, mentions in obscure blogs, half-finished Instagram accounts. Every lead dissolved into digital smoke. Then something clicked. I remembered a gallery she once talked about when we were still together. Said it was too corporate for her style, but she admired the owner, Anita something. She sees people, not products, Sasha had said once, in that poetic way of hers. I took a chance. 2 days later, I was in Portland, standing outside the glass doors of Eastbridge Studio Gallery. It was raining again. Inside, the air smelled of fresh paint and pine wood. A woman in her 50s, salt and pepper bun and glasses on a chain, greeted me with the tired but genuine smile of someone who's seen every kind of artist walk through the door. Can I help you? Cleared my throat. I'm looking for someone, Sasha Duvall. I think she might have worked with you. Her smile faded slightly. Sasha's complicated. I know, I said. I'm not here to chase her. I just want to know she's okay. She studied me for a long moment, then said, she rented space here last fall. Painted every day for 3 months straight. Didn't talk much. She was processing something. Did she say where she was going? Anita hesitated, then turned to a drawer behind her desk. She pulled out a sealed envelope. She left this, said if someone came asking, not just anyone, but someone who really knew her, I'd know. She slid it across the counter. I stared at it. My fingers tingled. Inside was a single card. On one side, an address, 1412 Dunecrest Road, Manzanita. On the other, another photo, us again. Only this one was older, taken the day we moved into our first apartment together. She was on my shoulders, hanging a crooked print above the kitchen table. We were laughing then too. On the back, memory number 2. Let's see if you remember what mattered. Manzanita was a sleepy coastal town on the Oregon shore. Fog curled around the houses like protective arms. The sea, just beyond the trees, whispered in slow tides. The house was small, a frame, blue shutters, and quiet. I parked and stood for a long time before knocking. No answer, but under the mat was a key and a note. You're close. Come find me. Inside, the house was sparsely furnished, but warm. On the kitchen table, a journal waited. On the cover, memory book. Inside were pages of photos, some I remembered, others I didn't know existed. Scribbled beside each. Dates, sketches, fragments of sentences. quotes from books we once read in bed together. I sat for hours turning pages, each one peeling back a layer of time. Then I saw the last page. Blank except for a small pressed flower taped to the corner and one line. Will you come to where it all began? My breath caught. Where it all began. The lighthouse, of course. There's a cliffside trail just south of Manzanita. We had gone there the first time we ever said, I love you. Beneath a lighthouse that stood watch over the sea like a silent, eternal witness. The wind howled as I climbed the narrow path. The trees leaned as if whispering secrets. When I reached the summit, the lighthouse stood stark against a pale sky. And there she was, Sasha, standing at the edge, arms crossed, eyes on the water. She turned slowly when she heard my footsteps. There were tears in her eyes, but she smiled. You remembered. I never forgot. We stood in silence for a moment. Then I stepped closer. Why all this? The photos? The notes? The chase? She looked down, her voice barely above the wind. Because I didn't want you to say yes just because I came back. I wanted you to remember us, piece by piece. I wanted you to want to build something new, not repair what broke. And if I hadn't come, I would have made peace with that. But I had to know if we still lived in you. I took her hand, warm and shaking. We do. She leaned into me, and for the first time in years, I felt like I was home. Not in a place, but in a moment that had waited patiently to be lived again. The lighthouse cast long shadows across the cliff, the light blinking slowly into the mist like a heartbeat. Steady, patient, constant. We sat on the stone ledge together, our legs dangling above the sea. The wind was brisk, but we didn't feel it anymore. The silence between us wasn't awkward now. It was full of everything that didn't need to be said. Sasha leaned her head on my shoulder. You know what I feared most? She asked quietly. I turned toward her, brushing her wind-blown hair back behind her ear. What? That we'd try again and fail worse than before. That I'd lose the version of you I loved and be stuck with the man who forgot how to see me. Her voice cracked, and I saw the pain ripple through her. And yet, I whispered, you still gave me the chance to remember. She reached into her coat pocket and pulled out a final photo. It was different, not candid, not nostalgic. It was a black and white image of a small home by a lake, a canoe tipped on its side, a dog lying lazily on the porch. It wasn't a real memory, it was one we used to talk about, a fantasy we built on nights when everything else felt too loud. I had this printed 2 years ago, she said. I told myself, if we ever found our way back, this would be the start. I stared at the image. It was quiet, simple, hopeful. What's this one called? I asked. She smiled, eyes soft. Memory number 3. The life we almost lived. I reached for her hand. Let's turn it into the life we actually live. The months that followed weren't easy. We didn't rush. There were still wounds, still triggers, still nights when we slept on opposite sides of the bed because our pasts echoed too loudly. We saw a counselor. We revisited places where we broke. We set boundaries, knocked them down, built new ones together. Sasha moved back to Seattle, but only after we both agreed it wasn't about fixing the old version of us. It was about creating a new one, intentionally, tenderly, with full awareness of the cracks. I started cooking more. She painted less, but with more joy. We got a rescue dog. We named her Lumi, after the light that brought us back. We kept taking photos, not for Instagram, not for anyone else, just for our memory book. It's been over a year now. As I sit here writing this, tea in hand, Lumi curled up by the fire, Sasha humming in the kitchen. I look at the bookshelf where that photo box still sits. It's not dusty anymore. We open it often, not to relive pain, but to remember growth. I once thought love was something wild you stumbled into, like a fever or a flood. But now I know real love is patient. It lets go when it must. And when it returns, if it returns, it asks not for promises, but for presence. So if you ever find yourself staring at an old photograph, aching with what could have been, I hope you ask yourself, is there still time to make new memories? Sometimes the past doesn't need rewriting. It just needs to be gently continued. Ryan.